Hi, everybody. It's Linda G with our favorite astrologer, Andre.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you. And we got
Good
a
to
lot
see
of
you.
questions.
Great,
But
great.
do you have anything you'd like to partake in real quick? Something new came up or?
Something new came up. You mean like someone got indicted and someone's going to be arraigned today? That?
How's his chart look at this time?
Well, again, I've been saying for months, I kept pointing to August, and I didn't know that it would be this exactly, but August is looking pretty grim, pretty
August,
grim.
I do think Fanny will do it, her thing.
Yeah.
Fanny, not Fanny. Fanny
Fine.
will do her thing for August.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's a bad situation and it's going to get worse. That's how I see it.
Oh God, and the right wing is talking trash, Somebody did a good memes with President Obama shaking Trump's hand saying, remember how you were saying I had a fake birth certificate and I put the judge in that's going to be in your case.
Yeah.
But I did say to Carrie Lake I had it with her. Oh, blah blah, this fraud, this blah blah blah. And I said, okay, let's say this. Trump still runs for president, he wins, and Kamala Harris decides she's not going to allow him in. She's going to change. Now that he won, right? It's legal for you to change who you want. I said, how's it feel?
It's bizarro. It's completely bizarro. Many people have pointed that out. But now you notice, by the way, that Pence, which you see, this is one of the things you see with allies. You see in their chart, you see ally angles between the planets, but also you almost always find something that is challenging because that's what tends to ignite relationships. It creates a bit of tension. You see this also in partnerships between people. Not all the angles are easy because then you work with each other, but that also leads to some arguments. The problem is that in the case of Pence, now he becomes an enemy. He's looking like he's going to be at trial, the main witness.
Same witness.
Saying like,
but I like how he's grounding himself. Did you see how when he makes a statement, he's not him high, and he's making the statement. And I voted for the Constitution, and I'll still vote for the Constitution.
And even then, I mean, I wish that these guys would get out of the gobbledygook, the talk. Why don't, instead of saying the Constitution, why don't you say, I'm voting for the rule of law. We can't do lawless things. We can't be breaking the law. That's more accessible to people because when you say the Constitution, people think, oh, what's the Constitution? And to a MAGA person, they have a different idea of what the Constitution is. They think crazy things are in the Constitution that aren't. And so Pence, these guys, they're sort of truthful, but in the end, they're Republicans. So don't expect them to be fully truthful. Because same thing with Bill Barr. Have you seen him? He is saying some really, really damaging things, but he puts in there things like, well, I wouldn't have prosecuted him. Well, what do you mean you wouldn't have prosecuted him? I mean, come on. He was, trying to bring down the government. So in the end, the Republican, John Bolton, Bill Barr, you get as much as you can from them, but, don't expect them to be.
Well, the main thing is who will persecute him in this trial are Republicans.
Oh, yeah, right. But that
Republicans.
The indictment is filled with Republican witnesses.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if this thing goes to court, one after another, they're going to be parading through. What did he say to you? What did you hear? Where are the Democrats?
I don't think you got her birth date yet, but that judge, I heard she's no nonsense.
No, I did get her birthday, and she's not. No, obviously, she's not good for Trump. Yeah, she's a major problem for Trump. Major. Although it's interesting that you see she has connections to him where it could work. The problem is you already know that it won't work because that's what happens in planetary mixes. You get a little bit of positive, like she's actually the same sign. She's a Gemini. Well, that's an example, by the way. If she's a Gemini, that should cure all the people that think, well, I'm a Gemini and, things are hard right now. No, not necessarily. Not if you're not a crook,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for her, she's the one that has been convicted. All the January 6th people that stormed the Capitol, apparently she's been pretty hard on them. And she's also ruled against Trump already, which is why he said he wanted it moved to West Virginia, which they're not going to move to West Virginia.
But because can I tell you, if they do go to West Virginia, but they won't. But even if they did, I heard he'd lose there too.
He probably would, the problem is that the crime was committed in DC. We can't move it, right? So,
Oh, they'll throw out everything they can that they hope will stick.
yeah, well, my prayer is that this judge says to him, don't open your mouth or I'll put you in the slammer, because he's going to start using racist comments, attacking her family.
Just like he just did another attack on Jack and his wife.
Right, exactly.
And I hope Jack comes forward and says, Your Honor, can you tell him to stop trying to corrupt the jury pool with this nonsense?
Yeah, I don't know why he hasn't. Smith seems really strategic, so he probably has a reason why he hasn't done that, I think.
Okay.
I don't know, but most people that I heard reading the legal analysis seem to say that it was a very tightly constructed indictment. And probably the best was Barr when he was being interviewed on CNN, and he goes, well, yeah, he said there's a lot of information in there, but I'm pretty sure that, because it's still hard to, in court you have to prove it. And he said, I'm pretty sure that Smith has more evidence that he's not showing.
Yes.
That he would add.
Yes.
So he said, and then the other thing he said is, if Trump argues something like, well, my lawyers told me to do it, or I really believed that this was true, he's got to take the stand and defend it. And when the CNN anchor said to him, well, if he takes the stand, then Barr laughed and he goes, that wouldn't work out well.
No.
Obviously, right? Because he'll start getting cross-examined, and Trump is like, the way he talks, he never makes sense. The jury would realize he's just talking, throwing spaghetti against the wall. That theory, did you hear that thing that he told Stephanie Grisham, that because she was his communications, I forget what it was, but it was a communications thing. And he said to her, all you have to do is keep repeating something. Don't worry about it if it's true. Just keep repeating it. That's what he does.
That's how he does it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But
just like you told us when we first started reading together, look out, because all of a sudden that's not going to work anymore. Yeah, no,
all of this can work through the First Amendment in a political arena. That's why, Smith starts the indictment saying, you are allowed to lie. You are allowed to say anything in public. That's your First Amendment right. You are not allowed to start talking people into committing crimes. That's not allowed, right? Like
it's a huge one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because, he's got all these markers where he was saying to people, I lost to different people. But at the same time, he keeps working the background, going against normal lawyers' advice, right?
And firing the ones that aren't agreeing with him.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So Adrian says, what does it mean to be born the 29th degree of your sign?
Well, it means that you're at the very end of the sign, and by one method of measuring, it's said to be a kind of more developed, or a person that has, perhaps, if you go to the lifetimes model, someone who is more mature in that sign, right? In the Indian system, they call it the Atmakaraka, which is the ruler of the chart from that angle, from being very late in the sign, right? Okay. But whether or not that's true, because the problem with that is that a person can hear that and immediately assume, oh, this means I'm special, and and that's often not a good idea to think that way. But what is more important is, if you're late in the sign, then when the cycles are happening and you hear something like, this planet is going into this sign, or this planet is going to challenge that sign, for you, it'll happen later in the cycle, because the planet has to go longer. So if you're, for instance, late in Pisces or Virgo or Gemini or Sagittarius, Saturn doesn't get there till 2025, 2026. Right now, it's earlier in the sign. So that's what it means. It's a long story, but it's like that.
Okay. Okay. So the thing is, if we can only do, like, asking you, will Jack Smith be the next AG, isn't your forte. That's something I would answer.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I hope so.
Hello to both of you. This is from Christy. I'm a Libra Scorpio. My birthday is on the cusp. What is that? What do you see coming up, or what does that mean?
Libras, I don't use the notion of cusps. You're either one or the other. When people have characteristics of the sign next to them, it's more to do with they'll have a planet in that sign, because if you're born on the cusp of Libra Scorpio, you may have, say it's really Libra, really late Libra, instead of really early Scorpio, then you'll probably have a planet in Scorpio, and you think, oh, well, I'm Libra and Scorpio at the same time. I read it as it's almost like having a border from one country to another. They're separate countries, and
Okay.
you read it that way. Yeah, that's the logic. So,
have you ever compared Vedic astrology with Western astrology?
oh, of course, yeah, many times. And in my opinion, Western astrology works better for all kinds of reasons. One of the key reasons is I've really tried to, over the years, study the signs, because the Vedic astrology, what they do, they backtrack all the signs because they use the constellational alignment, and they argue about that as well, because they're not in agreement about where the constellations start. But to make a long story short, say a person is born, back to that person that you mentioned, born really late in the sign, right? That person would still be the same sign in Vedic, because up to about 24 degrees, which is almost near the end of the sign, you're still the same sign. But if you're anywhere between the beginning, like 0 to about 23, then you backtrack into the previous sign. My problem with that is that when I've observed astrology in life, I keep seeing the tropical signs, the ones that I use, work better. They give you better results. And now I'm even starting to see Vedic astrologers use Vedic rules with tropical signs, which that's pretty strange, but they're doing that as well. So that's one of the reasons. The other is that Western astrology is very geometric, and I study a lot of geometric patterns, and I prefer that to the kind of thing they do is they think in boxes. They'll say, now you're in this period, and like, for what reason? They have this scheme that they set up, and I'm not saying they're wrong necessarily, but you're not getting a flow of information the way I get from Western astrology. So yeah, that's a long story. By the way, you can go online and do research. Astro.com, I think, has articles on a lot of this, so you can learn a lot about the differences and things like that.
Oh, don't forget, you said you'd be happy to, me and Hogarth were thinking about having a mutual
get
together, and we can comparatively look at.
Definitely, yeah.
He did a reading for me, and it was pretty good, but
yeah,
I'm used to Western astrology.
Right. No, they both. This is not to say that a person using Vedic can't do anything from a good to a fantastic reading. I'm not saying that isn't the case. Just saying that I prefer Western, right? In part because I started with it, but I have considered those contrasts a lot, and I'm always open to someone showing me something that works pretty well.
He's pretty good. Now, Joanne wants to know Netanyahu's astrology. What's it look like for the remainder of the year?
Not good. It's not good. Obviously not good. Look what he's going through. He's under tremendous tension. It's not just this year, next year. Netanyahu, the astrology doesn't settle until at least 2025, and that's not great news. And then in 2025, because Netanyahu's a Libra, so same with Putin. These people in 2025, 2026, 2027, when you're on the wrong side of issues, and I think they both are, that's not good. When Saturn comes in to oppose you, not good. It'll challenge you. It'll stop you. It'll sometimes at their ages, you can get sick, because they're under constant pressure. So it's not looking great in the near or the, fairly near future if we move a couple of years forward.
Right. Oh, this is the hard part. I've kind of got MSNBC in the background just to make sure I don't miss maybe some sort of attempt to throw white paint at them or something. But they will stop talking just to show him going to the plane and to show him getting off the plane. It's like, why? Really? Why?
Yeah, it's true. It's true, but they probably know that their metrics probably tell them
They're
that
probably desperate to fill time in. But
they're keeping the evil. I mean, in a way, it's like when they're showing you a criminal too, though, because if someone is being charged with murder, they show you.
Now, I want to raise my hand and say, did anybody get the number of bowel movements he had today?
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow. What is
I know.
this?
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, I complained enough. Now, spirits now said, what transit will indicate heart problems? How long would this transit last for Scorpio in the sun in the ninth house? Aquarius rising with a Virgo seventh house.
Now, if Aquarius is rising, Leo is the seventh house. Virgo would be the eighth. The way I read charts,
Okay.
Aquarius.
No, she didn't say Aquarius. She said transit for Scorpio, sun in the ninth house.
Sun in the ninth house.
Oh, Aquarius rising with a Virgo moon in the seventh house.
The thing is that those are questions you have to really look carefully at the chart, because it depends the degree of the sun. For example, if the sun is in the 20, or not even 20, say 19 to 23 of Scorpio, that's where Uranus is challenging right now, and that is classic potential heart attack. But not every person with those degrees would have that. It's more
Right.
like the person says, well, I've had this heart issue. Yes, then you're a little more vulnerable, or even a lot more vulnerable during that period. So you got to get the exact degrees. You can't just point to the house and say, you know, the whole sign. No, otherwise every Scorpio would be dealing with
Right.
heart problems, right? But that's an example of the heart, an example of Leo as the heart energy.
Yeah.
And Trump's Leo rising, and a lot of health pressure. He's vulnerable to one of those totally during this period, and extends this year, next year. It's dangerous because of
Let's
the.
pray that he doesn't get sick. So anyway, where are we gonna go? Because I'd like to see him go full Monty. I'd like him to be charged. You've been found guilty. I don't want him to have to exit. Okay, what does it mean if you don't have, this is a weird question. I don't know if you can answer it. If you don't have Leo or Aquarius in your birth chart.
Well, if you don't have it, you still have those houses somewhere, or those signs. Like the signs move in an order. So wherever Leo fall in the order, counting from the ascendant, the way I read it, like say, for example, if it was Gemini rising, then it would be Leo would be the third and Aquarius would be the ninth. That would be the Leo Aquarius axis. And then you look at where the Sun, Saturn, and Uranus are to figure out what that Leo Aquarius is doing. So everybody has Leo Aquarius somewhere, and everybody, yeah. So even if they're completely empty, that doesn't mean that those places are empty. It means that they're ruled by something somewhere else. So you can always explain it. And then planets will go through there at different times. Like Saturn was in Aquarius during 21 and 22, so it was triggering that part of the chart. And then you actually can see in real time what it's doing in your chart, right? When it's going through there.
Marie wants to know, is a Pisces sun sign and Gemini rising destined to have dual personalities?
A Pisces sun sign with
and a Gemini rising.
Pisces sun sign, Gemini rising. Well, yeah, in part. Well, dual. What does that mean, though? Dual personality? You mean like having a? Yes, you could say that. You could say, like, for example, Gemini and Pisces. They're known as dual signs. So is Virgo and Sagittarius. There's a duality. So you do see that people like that will be doing two things at once. For example, two businesses, sometimes two partners. I'm not kidding. It can happen, right? Things like that. But then, you know, at other parts of their times in their life, they might realize that's not really a good plan.
Or I started off in one career and changed careers later.
Correct. Yeah, you go in a different direction. And then, I mean, basically, if a person says, well, I have two sides, that's good unless you are rationalizing, for example, that you are up some of the time and down some of the time, and you're excusing your bad behavior when you're down. The solution isn't to say, well, this is the way I am. The solution is to figure out why you're feeling low and try to even it out, right?
Right.
It becomes your path, so to speak. So you could just as easily say that the role of a dual sign is to try to get beyond, you know, the two-sided thing that is not particularly helpful, right? That way. Yeah.
So, little c, is there something happening astrology-wise in regards to price increases? It seems in the last week I have received many emails that this or that is increasing. In no time in history do I recall notifications of this many notifications of price increases.
Well, I thought that the period between the spring of 22 and the spring of 23 was the worst because that's when Jupiter was in Aries, which is challenging for the US. That's when inflation really took off. But then the data, at least as it's being presented now, it's dropped a lot. It's still there, but it's way, way lower than it was. And the numbers that I saw, incomes are rising faster than prices.
Thank you.
So then the economy is considered to be going really well, but there's still, yes, prices are still high. And all I can think of is that at least now it's in the next sign and it's not as pronounced. And you see this a lot in economics that you're not going to see inflation go high, 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 and then immediately go back to zero. It doesn't work like that. You have to kind of wait for a while. And a lot of that is because they pumped so much money into the system during the pandemic that there was too much money floating around. And then when there's money floating around, demand increases and people raise prices. This has happened many times in the past. That's why people say, oh, when I was a kid, I remember a chocolate bar used to be 10 cents. I would go to the store with 30 cents and, oh, I'm rich. I'm going to get 2 chocolate bars and an ice cream. Now, I mean, what do you need? $3, $4?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Okay, Martha, here's a good one. What does it indicate if Saturn and Pluto are conjunct or within orb 3 degrees apart in the same house in your natal chart?
Well, Saturn and Pluto, again, though, be really careful with astrology questions because you got to see everything about that Saturn and Pluto. It'll be, what house did you say it was?
Hold on, where is she? Okay, 3 degrees apart in the same house as your natal chart. Saturn and Pluto are conjunct or within orb 3 degrees apart.
Right, well, and the house is not even mentioned. So it'll be in a certain place in the chart. It's a conjunction. Saturn, Pluto, without seeing everything else about it, is a more challenging energy. Saturn, Pluto was what happened in 2020 in the pandemic year. They're usually harsher periods. Saturn opposite Pluto is even worse. That's when we had 9/11. The world gets really, really edgy. Saturn, Pluto on a personal chart is the idea that in your lifetime, you'll be called to make major changes in your life. And sometimes you will be agreeing with those. You'll be thinking, yeah, I really need to do this and do them. And sometimes you won't, right? Life will just confront you with it. So it's like a life where you really experience transformation because Pluto is the death planet and it wants to destroy something. But think of it as it does it for a good purpose. So at the end of the transformation, you feel better. During the transformation, maybe not so much.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So listen, this is a good one, Sarah. Is there an astrological reason when you look at Merrick Garland's chart, why he took so long? I've often psychically said he had to disperse of the Trumpsters within his own organization.
Yeah, it's a little mysterious. I think the best explanation from the astrology is that this period in his life coincided with a lot of Neptune energy. And Neptune, for a person at that level of society where they're making big decisions, Neptune can be confusing when it's squaring you. I mean, even in any person's chart, if you get a Neptune square, it's not particularly clarifying in your mind. So my feeling is that he just misjudged. Probably not for the worst reason. Back in 21, he thought, if I run after Trump immediately, that'll inflame the situation. Democrats are always trying to do the right thing. And they're going to have to learn that, like I heard someone say, if that had been a Republican administration, within a month, they would have been, special counsel, go after this person because they broke the law. And it would have been better. But think about this, though. In a way, right now, we're about a year behind because of what he did, right? He wasted a year, right? But someone said that all these legal cases, no matter what happens, they usually take 4 or 5 years because if you convict Trump next year, he'll appeal. And it'd be another 6 months, another appeal. It doesn't get resolved until well into the future. So, yeah, but that's the best explanation I have. And quite honestly, I have to say that I think he would have been better to have appointed someone else, in my opinion. Now, that's what I would have done had I been Biden.
I don't think he's going to stay for the next season.
Probably not, no. Yeah. Because, the thing about those jobs is we are making judgments from here, but They're really tough jobs. They're really, really tough jobs because, you know, they threaten you, they threaten your family. I mean, you can't be, you're never happy because half the country approves and half the country wants to kill you, you know.
Yeah,
So,
that's a shame.
yeah.
So Love Above says, hi guys, thank you. What does a trine in water signs and a kite pattern do to one's life? What's a kite pattern?
Kite pattern is an alignment of planets that looks like a kite, so that um, you get a trine. You get, you know, the grand trine is like a triangle.
Yeah,
And if you put two planets up there that are half trines to one of the planets, you get a kite formation. A kite is good because a kite gives you a lot of planets talking to each other. Anytime you see planets in a chart linking, it's good. And so it helps your life. The drawback can be if you get too self satisfied. You start to think, oh, I got it figured out. And I've come across people with grand trines, for example, in water, which is an emotional grand trine, and they're totally sure. And I'm kind of looking and going, you know, I don't think you should be so sure about this. I think maybe you should be questioning yourself a little bit more when you feel like the way they're reasoning isn't totally solid, right? So
exactly.
it's always like that in astrology. Overall, though, if you ask me, would you take a kite? I'd say yeah. Whereas if you said to me, like, okay, say someone gave me the option, do you want to have Saturn, Pluto conjunct, or do you want to have a kite of planets? That's a pretty easy choice. I'll take the kite, right? But I might be missing out on the a great change that Saturn, Pluto might bring. So you're always weighing these, you know, these options, and
Exactly.
sometimes taking the harder option can be better. So it's like
Right.
that. Yeah.
So truth always wins. Regarding Cheeto, based on its North Node sign and house positions, including aspect, what was Trump's highest life purpose this time around?
Ah, that's a great question. I like that question. It was like, well, this is, I'm just going to say it's an educated guess. I think Trump's life purpose is to do something completely awful like he's done, and through a kind of the unintended consequences law, he's going to bring in more women into power. He's going to advance people's rights, like, and improve the legal system, because this is like when someone robs your house, you then set up
Yeah,
alarms, you put
yeah,
cameras, because you
exactly.
realize this is no good. You can't have a person doing this. Uh, and other than that, I mean, he thinks his life purpose is whatever he thinks it is. He thinks that, I don't know, that he's going to get all the admiration in the world, but it doesn't look like it's going that way. And the years that he's in are extremely dangerous because of what he's done. You know, all of this, people say things like, I'm a Gemini, this and that. Just don't rob banks, don't do illegal things, and
Yeah,
you're probably going to be okay. You know,
right,
it's
right.
like that. No,
Yeah, was Hitler an Aries or a Taurus?
Taurus.
Yeah.
Taurus, but he had Mercury in Aries, and his Mercury was a really focalized planet, and so there was a lot of Aries energy in him, and also he had his Taurus planets in the death house, and he was literally dispensing death. I mean, this guy was like a death machine. All he wanted to do was destroy, kill, you know. So yeah, not a very good Taurus, I have to say.
No, and neither is Trump because uh, uh, Hitler, during the bombing of Berlin, when they said, "Sir, should we get everybody out?" He said, "No, let them die."
Yeah, no,
They
no, no,
didn't
for
stand
sure.
up for me. Now that's something Trump would say.
No, yeah, no, they asked Barr, you know, because Barr said, look at all these people that he leaves in his wake, the people working for him, Oliveira, Nauda, they're just, you know, normal people with normal families, and now they're in trouble because of him. And the anchor asked him, do you think he cares? And he said, no. He said, with Trump, everything is a one-way street, you know. But it's remarkable to me, this guy, Barr, is capable of saying, if they ask him again, if he's the nominee, will you vote for him? He won't say no, you know, he won't.
I know.
You should say, I'm not
Well,
voting for
the
him.
thing is, they won't say no on camera or in the press, but you'd be surprised how many people will say no once behind. Remember, even the January 6th commission said we have so many Republicans coming up to us saying we can't say it out loud because we'll be destroyed.
Yeah, right. No, no, that's the separate issue where the Republican Party is totally focused on the primary. But you know that we've heard this for years and years. The primary, you have one message. The election, you have a second message. But if they're too far apart, it's too big a problem, because once you have to talk to everybody, You can't be, going from complete this way to the other way. People aren't going to listen. So
I have my TV on just in case, like I told you. Oh my God, my friend, it's just a little, not that many Trump people there. There's more people saying, he needs to go to jail.
well, by the way, these are markers that people should pay attention to on the positive side. When you see that he is desperate to get people to go on the street and
Oh, that's
do
what he
anything.
wants.
He wants
Yes,
violence. He wants violence. They're not doing it. You know why? Because law enforcement will be there and they
it's
know
on.
it.
It's
Yeah.
on. And
So,
he wants it so bad that he would have used that had, let's say there was a real riot post one of these things, even the one in Florida. He would have used that and said, yeah, you better be careful because my people. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah, no, exactly, exactly. I mean, he's definitely a very malevolent force. And I mean, look, good luck if you want to ask yourself, what do people like Hitler, Mussolini, Trump, what are they here for? I know it's complicated. It's complicated. It's crazy that the world produces these beasts, these
Oh,
cockroaches.
it's sort of a
Uh,
shock.
yeah, it's shocking, but I don't know what to say. How do you explain people like Putin, who think that you should just murder, men, women, and children
Ugh.
for what he calls what? Security, Russian,
He's
whatever.
another one that could care less about his own people, for real. He
Yeah,
doesn't care.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly.
So, Young Donna, how long can you be with me, by the way?
Okay, I'm good. Yeah, continue. Yeah.
Donna, we got some good astrology questions. She said August 8th is called Lionsgate. Can you explain what that is?
Mm, well, the only thing I can say about August 8th, if you think about August 8th, it's more like August 6th, but probably it's what they're getting at. August 8th is the heart of Leo because Leo, the middle of Leo would be 15. That would be August 6th, right in between when it starts and where it ends. To me, that feels like Leo, the lion, Lion's Gate, that's the heart of Leo at that point, right?
Right.
So that's probably what it means, but to be honest, I'm just going with the symbolism of the lion because I know
I
that's what it
raised
means.
my girl is her birthday Saturday, August 5th.
Well, that's a Leo. That's
She's a strong Leo too.
Leo. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that,
But she's very loving, She can be a little bit overwhelming, but she's also, especially as she ages, she becomes better.
yeah, well, that's a good thing. Yeah, because Leo is the sign of love and romance, but it's only when it becomes too much of an ego trip where you're doing it for yourself that there's less growth. But overall, Leo is a confident, loving sign that spreads solar energy.
Right.
That's the meaning of Leo.
And Ranger's wife said, just watched another astrologer. What? How dare you watch another
Okay, yeah, I don't mind.
who said that the year 2025 is going to be a very difficult year for the US and the world and each of us individually.
Yeah, I would probably agree. This just goes with the logic that my interpretation of what's going to happen is that the Republicans are going to lose and they're not going to be happy and the tension will continue. That's for reasons related to the U.S. chart and what those planets do in 25, 26. So don't expect this to just change overnight, and go from a situation that is better,
Yes, I
but
see what
not
you're
best
saying.
yet. It's
I
going to
think
take a
you
while.
Yeah.
And if you think the world in terms of turmoil, what happens when a big planets, because 25, 26 is when Neptune and Pluto finally change signs, and then Uranus changes signs in 26. So that's the three main outer planets are changing signs. And those are big social changes. And yet, with all this, I still remain optimistic because people are always trying to say as soon as there's a change, the whole thing is going to fall apart. I'm not buying that. It's just that you have to go through the period of adjustment, right?
Yeah, well, we're probably after the Civil War, there was a lot of
Yeah,
adjusting and getting used, and people still had bad feelings.
yeah. No, and by the way, look back to the Civil War. The Civil War period, except for that period when they had a person a lot like Trump, this horrible president, the administrations after that were very progressive. They were bringing in improvements. Not perfect, but
No.
like Obama says, we're trying to become a more perfect union. I don't know the answer to that, right?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. Yeah.
Cyberbomb's asking the most important question that we have here.
Okay.
Will Linda ever meet Gerard Butler?
Would Linda ever meet who?
Gerard Butler.
The actor?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, she will. I don't know.
I don't know. I gotta tell you though, one time years ago, I might have been in nursing school. I went with a friend to go see one of those John Travolta movies, the second one he did. And her and I were so excited to see the movie. And we get back to her place and I threw the cards. Would she ever meet John Travolta? And the card said no. Then I threw the cards for me. Would I ever meet John Travolta? And it said yes. And I met him. I was in a club for Richard Marx, and my friend Tristan was playing drums, and he was there with his entourage, and Mary Lou Henner was his girlfriend at the time. So it was so funny. I get home to my friend Tristan's house. I said, I got to call my girlfriend, Carmela, and tell her that I met him. So I'm on the phone and say, guess what? And they're sitting there listening to me. I met John Travolta, and he was all over me like a cheap suit. And their heads snapped like, what? I don't remember that.
That's pretty unusual.
He didn't pay one lick of attention. I was out there dancing my whole heart out, and he never looked. Meryl Lou looked at me a couple of times and thought, that girl's moving, but he didn't look at me.
Yeah. No, he's an interesting character though. Travolta is a, famous person with some unusual qualities. Some seem good and some seem, like the whole Scientology thing I find a bit strange. But I don't know if people know that he's a pilot. He has his own. He flies on his own 747 or some such thing, and he's
good. I heard too.
He's which?
But he's an Aquarius, so he's. I always find Aquarians can be deep or out, sort of think outside the box.
Yeah, that's a yeah, definitely. Unless the Aquarian energy is just rebellious, like Sarah Palin has a lot of Aquarius, and her thing was to be, the rebel or the person that goes against the flow, but in a way that most people thought was, anything from ignorant to annoying, So
Melinda said she's experiencing a lot of technological issues right now. A lot of people are, even TV shows are getting cut off from the person they're talking to, just like we had the last time we tried to do a video.
Well, you can't blame Mercury retrograde because it's not retrograde yet, but it will be in a while. So maybe it'll get even worse. I don't know. I mean,
Okay,
Venus is retrograde, but
yeah, you didn't notice anything in the chart?
not that much. I mean, I usually can tell during the Mercury retrograde, it becomes really obvious, something like where your fridge fails or your stove or some computer part or something super tangible. But as far as if you're seeing them now, it might be your own chart. Let's say that something in your chart related to communications gets triggered. And yeah, that's true. If a part of your chart, like say your own Mercury, gets an aspect,
Right.
that can happen. But all I can say to that is this life. I mean, you got to solve the problem and keep moving. For the most part, communication systems are pretty amazing. I mean, think about how easy it is to communicate now compared to the way it used to be. So
Right, exactly.
with that, yeah.
So Mary said, I had an astrologer do my chart 40 years ago. He said I had the finger of God pointing at me. What does that mean?
Oh, the finger of God. Okay, well that's another pattern. It's not like a kite. It sort of looks like a kite, but it's more complicated in that, although I suppose you could get a finger of God involving a kite too. Like kites can be easier or harder. The finger of God, though, involves this one aspect that is called the 150, the inconjunct. So it does complicate things a bit unless you focus on spirituality, self-growth. Then it can be really great, right, to move yourself forward. If not, it's a more challenging type of pattern, and you have to be careful especially if the degrees are tight. Be careful with your health because those 150s are health angles, and you get to see what they're doing when planets go through there. So a lot of astrology is self-study. Like you look at a pattern you have. What happens when a planet goes through? That's what the astrologer does. He tries to correlate. He or she will ask questions to see what was going through there, what were you experiencing, and then you can get advice about the kind of thing that it's doing and how to
Right.
correct it. Yeah.
Okay, last question. Governor Gavin Newsom, did you take a look-see at him at all?
I have in the past, but I haven't in a while. The last time I looked seriously at Gavin Newsom was when he had that problem. Remember that I think they were doing something happened around an election, and he was in a bit of danger, but then nothing happened, and the chart didn't show any
Oh,
problem.
okay.
He escaped. I think Newsom. My sense, though, from when I looked at his chart, Newsom is to me is presidential material. He's a possible future president, in my opinion. He has
Oh,
that.
okay.
He
He's
has
gonna
that
have
same.
a debate with DeSatan in November.
Oh, but that's fun. That's
And
fun
you'll
because
get to see how he
you know
works.
Newsom, by the way, is pretty direct. He one of my favorite videos that I've seen in the last year was when he had a talk with Hannity and he just let it rip.
Yeah. Oh,
I
he's
thought
asking for Hannity to MC this debate.
he said too much in a way because he said it as your states, which is not really a way to put it, but he was telling Hannity, you guys, red states, you guys take all the money that comes from the blue states. Oh, the taxes are high in the blue states. Well, they may be high, but that's where the money is. So all this talk of divorce, where are you going to go? Right? How's
Yeah.
that going to work? Who's going to pay? Alabama's all complaining this and that.
Yeah.
They take more while they complain about the federal government oppressing them.
Yeah, I'm glad they have a flood or a tornado. They're calling us right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
you
might.
want to help them, but it's like kids. You don't want to give anything to a greedy kid.
Yeah, well, not just greedy, but a greedy kid with a bad attitude,
Yeah.
because they're telling you the opposite of what is happening. Wow.
Well, thank you guys for your questions. There's even more left over. We're going to talk again next week, right?
We are, yes.
I might
Yes.
save some of these for next week.
Yeah, save some of them and we'll keep
Okay.
going. And by then, the way this is going, who knows?
Ooh, we're going to have a lot to talk about.
we may have
The
more.
news is saying he has just turned himself in.
Good. 30 minutes early.
Somebody put a thing on Twitter that the police have set up a trap for Trump in case he tries to escape. And it's a big, huge box, right? With a stick, a big, huge box with a stick and a bucket of KFC underneath.
That's about it. I know. It's crazy. It's just
You
so
know,
crazy.
he's sick to death. I just know he's trying to spend this at his space. He really hopes to God he can be president. I will tell you guys, and I'm going to do a video after this, that man will never be president.
Well, he's got, the thing is, he's got a very problematic period now and post-election, because the thing is where Saturn and Neptune go post-election, and they don't go real slow. They hang around for a while. That's that Access Hollywood T pattern in his chart. He hates it when planets go through there. And the last planets you want to have there are Saturn and Neptune. That's his legal house. That kind of tells you the ensuing years keep, in his face, legal, legal, legal. And by the way, it looks pretty bad. It looks pretty bad because they have the evidence. And, good luck, by the way. People said, well, Florida, it's a Trumper district. Okay, maybe you find one or two Trumpers over there that decide to absolve him. But in D.C., not in D.C.
No.
No, including with Judge Chutkin, who
Yeah.
seems pretty straight up. So,
Yeah. So she's going to be a go-getter. So, okay, my friend, I'll talk to you soon. I'll post this soon.
bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.